In this presentation, you will get a walkthrough of the Thinkorswim script I call Addison. I created this specifically for working with the volume weighted average price (VWAP). With this script, one can anchor the start of the VWAP to key points, like the beginning of each day's trading hours, a stock's earnings dates, or the movement of a Darvas Box. In addition to the VWAP, this script has a fast and slow-moving average built-in. This is to accommodate anchoring the VWAP to moving average crosses, like the golden cross. Also, the version of VWAP built into TOS only works on time-based charts. This Addison script works on time, tick, and range-style charts. Time to get into the script. The easiest way is to walk through the input parameters. You can access them via the script customizing dialog, launched by clicking the cog icon next to the script on the Edit Studies and Strategies screen. First up, the input parameter, version. The first parameter in any script I write is the version number. I increment this number by 1 every time I update the script. Including version as the first input parameter makes it visible just above the chart beside the script name. Maintaining a version number simplifies the task of ensuring one is using the correct version. There is also a color scheme parameter. Input parameter color scheme. I include an if statement in the color value assignment code in my scripts to simplify switching between color schemes for some indicators. In this script, colorizing the VWAP according to need proves quite handy. Now the color scheme parameter option dynamic. The color scheme option of dynamic makes the VWAP line lighter when the VWAP slope is heading up and darker when heading down. The deviation lines don't change color. The +1 and +2 deviation lines above the VWAP are lighter than the -1 and -2 deviation lines below the VWAP. Next, color scheme parameter option green. This color scheme option sets all of the VWAP related lines to green. Having all the VWAP lines in one color can be handy when anchoring the VWAP to, say, a pivot high. Then you can place another VWAP coming up off a pivot low and make that one red. Like you see here. Last but not least is color scheme parameter option red. The red color scheme option sets all the VWAP lines to red. Now for the real meat and potatoes of the script. Input parameter VWAP anchor. The VWAP anchor drop-down list is where you select the key point where you want the VWAP to start. I will explain each option. However, there are a few all-encompassing rules. For instance, the VWAP will not begin displaying until the first occurrence of the desired anchor has happened. I will go over how to set this up later, but here's an example where the VWAP doesn't start showing until the moving averages cross for the first time. Also, if you bring up a daily chart with an option based on an intraday value, all you get is a line through the days. Like you see here. Whereas if you bring up an intraday chart with a daily based option, like a stock split, the VWAP will, it will be wrong. It has to be wrong if you think about it, because the VWAP calculation is based on compounded values from start to finish. So the moral of this story is, you have to choose the correct type of chart, and sufficient chart duration, for each option. It seems like common sense, but to be super clear, a day-based value on a daily chart will start the VW on the correct day. And an intraday-based value will begin on the correct bar of an intraday chart. So long as the VWAP starting point is included in the overall chart's time frame. They are not always interchangeable. With those commonalities in mind, we move on to the VWAP anchor options. VWAP anchor parameter option anchor date time. As the name implies, this anchors the start of the VWAP to a specific time, of a particular date. The anchor date time option uses the following two input parameters. Input parameter used by anchor date time, anchor date. Anchor date is the date used by the anchor date time option. The entry must be in the format of the 4-digit year, 2-digit month, and 2-digit day. Do not include any separators like a dash or slash. Also, if a month or day is less than 10, you must include a preceding 0. The next input parameter used by anchor date time is anchor time. Anchor time is the time used by the anchor date time option. It must be in 24-hour military time format with 4 digits, 2-digit hour, and a 2-digit minute. The time zone referenced is always the Eastern Time Zone. Do not include any separators like a colon. Also, if the hour or minute is less than 10, include a filler 0. Moving along to VWAP anchor parameter option chart high. You get 3 guesses for what this does. Selecting this option anchors the VWAP to the bar with the highest high price on the entire chart. Inverse of the high is VWAP anchor parameter option chart low. Selecting this option starts the VWAP at the lowest low of the entire chart. So, on a yearly chart, this is the low of the year. On a chart of today, this will be the low of the day. Alphabetically, the Darvas Box option is next. But I am going to jump ahead just a bit and talk about the Show Darvas Box input parameter now because it is very relevant at this point. It is not a VWAP anchor type option, but now is a good time to mention the Show Darvas Box input parameter. Its default is no, but setting it to yes will display the Darvas Box across the entire chart. Darvas Box theory is a trading strategy developed by Nicholas Darvas. If you are not familiar with it, there is plenty of information about it scattered around the internet. The oversimplified version is that the Darvas Box involves entering as the stock trades at a new high and exiting on breach of the low. Trading is aided by drawing a box around the recent highs and lows to identify entry and stop loss. So, now for the VWAP anchor parameter option Darvas Box. Selecting this option anchors the VWAP to each bar where the top or bottom of the Darvas Box moves. VWAP anchor parameter option days ago. This numeric value anchors the VWAP at the beginning of the day, this number of days back from today. Unlike the anchor date time option, this always uses the start of a new day. Also, this value works on both daily and intraday charts. If this value exceeds the number of days available on the chart, the VWAP will not display. The default is 2, a value of 0 is today. VWAP anchor parameter option days high. Selecting this option anchors the VWAP to the highest of each day. To be clear, it will pull anchor and move if a new high of day is achieved during the current day. VWAP anchor parameter option days low. Selecting this option starts the VWAP at the lowest low of each day. VWAP anchor parameter option dividend. Selecting this option on a daily chart will start the VWAP on each dividend payout date. VWAP anchor parameter option earnings. Selecting this option on a daily chart will start the VWAP on earnings release date. VWAP anchor parameter option MA cross. Selecting this option will have the VWAP start on each cross of the fast and slow moving averages defined within this script. I will go over how to configure these moving averages later, but they are standard issue moving averages. If you want to see something cool, bring up the SPY chart for the past 20 years. Then set up the moving averages to reflect the golden cross. That is a fast of a 50 period, simple moving average, and the slow moving average of the 200 period simple moving average. I'll walk through doing that when we get to those input parameters in a few minutes. VWAP anchor parameter option MA turn. Selecting this option will cause the VWAP to anchor to each turn of the slow moving average. VWAP anchor parameter option new day. Selecting this option will start the VWAP on each new day. Keep in mind that a new day starts when trading resumes following the previous session's close. So, if you have extended hours displayed on a stock chart, the new day VWAP will begin at the start of extended hours. In fact, the new day for futures may be at a time in the previous calendar day. For example, the new day for light sweet crude oil futures is 1800, 6 p.m., the preceding trading day. VWAP anchor parameter option new month. Selecting this option will anchor the VWAP to the first trading day of each month. VWAP Anchor Parameter Option New Week. Selecting this option anchors the VWAP to the first trading day of each week. VWAP Anchor Parameter Option New Year. Selecting this option anchors the VWAP to the first trading day of, you guessed it, each year. VWAP Anchor Parameter Option Recent High. This option anchors the VWAP to the highest high that price has reached recently. Recently is defined by the recent HL period input parameter. The default value is 21. So, by default, the VWAP is anchored to the bar with the highest high of the past 21 bars, provided this high bar is higher than the next bar. As an aside, you may hear these bars referred to as a pivot or peak. VWAP Anchor Parameter Option Recent Low. The inverse of the recent high option, this one anchors to the bar with the lowest price reached within the recent HL period number of bars. These low bars are often referred to as a pivot or valley. VWAP Anchor Parameter Option, RTH Start. Selecting this option anchors the start of the VWAP to the beginning of regular trading hours each day. The VWAP will continue to plot from then until the end of the day. Note that the end of the actual day may be long after the end of regular trading hours. For example, the end of the day for futures is generally midnight. VWAP Anchor Parameter Option Split. Selecting this option anchors the beginning of the VWAP to stock splits. For example, Starbucks, stock symbol SUBX, split in April of 2015. Here is the monthly chart, going back 10 years. You can see the VWAP starts plotting at April 2015. As long as we are at it, here is an easy example of what I meant when I said, setting the chart duration shorter than is needed for the anchor point skews the VWAP. Note the VWAP line value of the VWAP anchored to the split on the 10-year chart. All of the accurate high, low, close, and volume values needed for VWAP are available on this chart. Now, with only a year's data on the chart, you can see VWAP is wrong. Input parameter Recent HL period. It stands for the recent high-low period. As previously mentioned, this value is used by the recent high and recent low VWAP anchor options. Input parameter Show Time Lines. The Show Time Lines parameter determines if vertical lines are displayed on the chart at specific times. The times are the start of each new day, and the beginning and end of regular trading hours for each day. Regardless of this setting, the lines only display on intraday charts. Input parameter Show VWAP. Show VWAP is as the name implies. Select Yes to display the VWAP line on the chart, No to hide it. Input parameter Show VWAP Deviations. Set Show VWAP Deviations to Yes to display lines at plus and -1 and 2 deviations from the VWAP line. Input parameter Show VWAP Cloud. Setting Show VWAP Cloud to Yes will display a cloud between the VWAP line and the plus and -2 deviation lines. The cloud above the VWAP line reaching the +2 deviation line is lighter than the cloud below VWAP down to the -2 deviation line. Input parameter Show Slow MA. Show Slow MA determines if the slow moving average line is displayed. The moving average line is defined by the period, type, and price input parameters. Input parameter Slow MA period. The Slow MA period parameter is the numeric value of the number of periods the slow moving average covers. Input parameter Slow MA type. The Slow MA type identifies what kind of moving average is used for the slow moving average. Input parameter Slow MA price. The Slow MA price identifies the value used to calculate that slow moving average. Input parameter Show Fast MA. Show Fast MA determines if the fast moving average line is displayed. The moving average line is defined by the period, type, and price input parameters. Input parameter Fast MA period. The Fast MA period parameter is the numeric value of the number of periods the fast moving average covers. Input parameter Fast MA type. The fast MA type identifies what kind of moving average is used for the fast moving average. Input parameter fast MA price. The fast MA price identifies the value used to calculate that fast moving average. Input parameter show MA cloud. Slow MA cloud stands for show moving average cloud. Setting show MA cloud to yes displays a cloud between the slow and fast-moving averages. The cloud is green when the fast-moving average is above the slow-moving average. The cloud is red when the fast-moving average is below the slow-moving average. Values every X bars. I include this in my script for research and development purposes only. Setting this to a value of greater than 0 will cause a bubble to display every X number of bars on the chart. The bubbles are populated with whatever values are assigned during coding. This comes in handy when debugging code. Bar line width. Bar line width is the value is used for the width of lines displayed on the chart. Acceptable values are from 1 to 5. 1 is the thinnest, and 5 is the thickest.